If you have come this far, it is likely that you are experiencing a process of self-knowledge and spirituality, something that can transform life in a profound way. Today we are going to delve into a theme full of symbolism. What happens when those who feel a superior call choose to put aside sexual relations? It may seem a delicate or controversial subject, but it is fundamental for those seeking inner growth. When we talk about this, it is not just about abstinence or chastity, but about how this choice can influence spiritual development, the connection with the divine and personal strength itself. Many people question whether there really is a significant spiritual impact in this decision, or if it is nothing more than something purely personal. But is this choice just a renunciation, or can it be the key to discovering new potentials? If you want to understand what is behind this old practice, keep watching. Then share what you think in the comments. Have you ever tried to live this experience? What effects did you notice in your life? And if you can, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and leave a message saying where you are coming from. This way we can form an even stronger community of spiritual search. Sexual energy is not just a physical or carnal desire, but one of the most intense forces that dwell in us. In many spiritual lines, it is called Kundalini or vital energy, a power capable of reaching the whole body, and when properly directed, it promotes deep levels of consciousness, transformation, and even spiritual ascension. Therefore, when we talk about sexual energy and spirituality, we do not think only of pleasure, but of something that, when used consciously and focused, has the power to change reality. For those who feel chosen, the question is not to deny this energy, but to channel it to a greater goal. Instead of releasing it physically, the proposal is to elevate it and transform it into something more subtle. When you decide not to get involved sexually, many realize that this energy begins to accumulate and awaken new levels of internal force, instead of generating frustration. By maintaining this energy instead of dispersing it, it spreads throughout the being, promoting inner discovery and communion with the divine. It is a process of conscious creation and transmutation, in which this force becomes creative inspiration, favoring spiritual connection. With this, we gain more capacity to manifest our goals. It is true that directing sexual energy is not easy, because it requires discipline, but the rewards are enormous. Those who master this process often feel more aligned with their own purpose, closer to the divine, and with an inner force that they did not feel before. The interesting thing is to realize that sexual energy is not limited only to the physical body. It reverberates in the mind, emotions, and aura, influencing everything around us and creating a unique vibration that connects us to a superior source in an intense way. Have you ever felt this vital energy pulsating in your skin or in your heart? Maybe in a moment of deep meditation or in a state of high vibration. That's what we're talking about. By redirecting your sexual energy to self-knowledge, you begin to have these sensations more constantly and intensely. Carl Jung, an important psychologist, also saw sexual energy as something essential in the process of individuation, which deals with the immersion in oneself and the full integration of our being. He believed that when sexuality is understood and conducted in a conscious way, it can become a creative and fundamental force for personal and spiritual growth. At this point, the concept of sublimating sexual energy and work, spiritual of those who are considered chosen, intersect. Jung saw this energy as a tool to connect with a deeper psyche and to tune into a greater purpose of life. This process, which he called individuation, seeks to break social conditions so that the person discovers his own essence. By choosing not to leak this force in the physical plane, a space is created to channel it into creativity, reflection, and transcendence. For Jung, sublimation does not mean repressing, but elevating sexual energy to a higher level, turning it into an ally in the realization of our most genuine purpose. It is as if, by channeling this energy to spirituality, we began to see clearly who we are and what we came to do here. Sexual energy becomes wisdom, and wisdom guides us to authenticity and the alliance with the sacred. This journey towards individuation is very similar to the path of those who feel chosen. Both lead to the integration of the being and the search for a true and full life. The practice of elevating sexual energy therefore becomes an instrument of inner growth, because instead of being an imbecile, it becomes fuel for self-knowledge, for creative imagination, and for the encounter with the divine mission itself. When we speak of chastity or celibacy, many think of something related to renunciation, obligation, or even penance. However, throughout history, several spiritual traditions have valued these practices as paths to a deeper connection with the divine, a way to intensify our spiritual experience and to reach higher levels of consciousness. Famous examples such as Jesus and Buddha show that these enlightened beings adopted chastity in their spiritual transformation journeys, not to renounce life, but to keep their vital energy firm, pure and connected to their missions. Jesus, for example, did not see in this a rejection of the world's experiences, but a way to concentrate his strength in his divine mission. Buddha, on the other hand, used this choice to distance himself from common desires and open space for a deep connection with enlightenment. Both realized that by depriving themselves of this kind of pleasure, they were able to attain states of greater peace and wisdom. Therefore, we should not see chastity as a refusal of emotions and desires, but as a conscious decision to employ sexual energy in a higher way. Deciding not to have sexual relations is a method of strengthening this connection with the divine, of elevating the vibration and getting in tune with our mission here. When someone chooses to abstain from something so present in existence, he does so believing that this gesture releases an inner potential that allows him to direct this force for the development of the spirit. This idea appears in many spiritual traditions, which see in the renunciation of certain pleasures an opportunity to deepen the inner experience, cleaning the ground to receive higher guidance and wisdom. Many monastic orders, for example, claim that by avoiding certain distractions between them and the carnal, the practitioner becomes more receptive to the sacred and able to reach a higher degree of lucidity and enlightenment. Of course, this is not a way for everyone. Everyone needs to know their limits and needs and recognize the exact moment to make this choice. For those who feel chosen, abstinence is not an obligation, but an instrument of self-discovery and growth that springs from a deeper understanding of the spiritual goal. Some see the decision to abandon sexual life as a sacrifice, but in reality, it opens up possibilities to develop a transformative power. Sexual energy, when well channeled, can revolutionize the way we see ourselves and how we lead existence. This process is like a purification. By directing this force for self-knowledge, artistic expression, meditation, or service to others, it ceases to be just physical and expands to the spiritual, emotional, and mental planes. Those who choose to sublimate their sexual energy can perceive greater clarity of thought, a sharper perception of their divine calling, and a more intense connection with the transcendent. In this sense, one is not just giving up a momentary pleasure, but awakening a superior capacity. The inner power arises when one learns to deal correctly with this energy, bringing an expansion of consciousness and a feeling of fulfillment that many do not know. This change is true. It does not always occur instantaneously, but it usually reveals itself gradually. And that does not mean that the path is simple. It takes discipline, commitment, and confidence to face the challenges, because sexual energy is extremely powerful. However, as the person connects more and more with their spiritual nature, the fruits of this choice become visible in all aspects of life, from work to interpersonal relationships. The main charm of this decision is in the profound transformation it promotes, awakening talents and capacities before asleep. Discernment is gained in choices, peace that used to seem distant, and a personal force that brings more authenticity to actions. This inner force can influence various areas of life, because directing sexual energy to spiritual growth is a determining factor for a more integrated and close existence of the divine. By taking this step, many people notice that they are no longer hostages of their own impulses, but become true guardians of their vital force, using it to create the life they desire. After understanding the profound impact of channeling sexual energy, it is important to address how this can be done in practice. Sublimating sexual energy does not mean suppressing it or pretending that it does not exist. It is about learning to redirect it in a constructive and more powerful way. There are several ways to do this, each one assisting in spiritual maturation and in the achievement of a more balanced life and connected to a greater goal. Meditation is one of the best-known strategies. By itself, It already promotes the expansion of consciousness. But allied to the intention of elevating sexual energy, it can generate even more intense results. In moments of inner silence, it is possible to lead this force to the awakening of the being. Techniques such as meditation focused on the third eye or Kundalini awakening serve to activate a superior perception and intensify our connection with the sacred. Yoga is also a great ally on this journey, as it balances body, mind, and spirit. Certain exercises such as Mula Bandha, contraction of the pelvic floor, help to lead this energy through the spine to the superior chakras, elevating our spiritual frequency. In addition, yoga promotes a more conscious relationship with the body and mind, integrating them in a harmonious way. Fasting, even in a moderate or intermittent format, can complement this process. It contributes to clean the body and mind, opening space for sexual energy to be redirected to the highest expressions of our being. Fasting should not be seen as cruel deprivation, but as a tool to prioritize what is essential: the contact with the spirit. Other practices that channel sexual energy include creative and altruistic activities. By painting, singing, dancing, writing, or dedicating oneself to the collective good, the person converts this force into something noble and inspiring. In the last analysis, everything revolves around the growth of consciousness. From the moment we understand sexual energy as something we can direct to spiritual elevation, we begin to see the true dimension of our inner power. When we apply discipline and devotion to these techniques, this vital energy becomes fuel for personal fulfillment and for the connection with the divine. Of course, despite all these benefits, the path to direct sexual energy also presents challenges. For those who feel chosen, this is not a simple task, but at the same time, the results can change life in a profound way. Therefore, it is necessary to be aware of all the positive and challenging aspects that this journey involves. When it comes to benefits, the first is usually a greater mental clarity. When we are not so involved in impulses or distractions, our mind becomes more focused, tuned to the spiritual purpose and open to intuitions. This lucidity facilitates more accurate choices and favors a more direct communication with inner wisdom. For the chosen, this state of clarity indicates an increasing proximity to the spiritual meaning of life. Then comes inner peace. Many report a deep calm when using sexual energy in spiritual or creative practices. This happens because this force ceases to be a frenetic impulse and becomes a balanced flow that helps to find harmony with the cosmos. This peace also ends up impacting connections with other people, generating more understanding and naturalness in relationships. In addition, there is an evident spiritual advance. The goal of abdicating sexual relations is not to escape the material world, but to expand one's own consciousness, obtaining deeper meditation experiences, revealing insights, and a greater harmony with the most essential self. These indications show an approach to the divine essence itself and to the mission of life. Even so, this journey is not without obstacles. Perhaps the biggest one is to deal with the raw force of sexual energy. When we decide to redirect it, feelings such as anxiety, repressed desires, and even frustrations may arise. This is normal, because we are dealing with a fundamental energy. The tip is not to blame yourself, but to take these moments as a natural part of inner development. External pressures also exist. We live in a culture where sex is seen almost as an indispensable thing, and those who think differently may be misunderstood or even criticized. This can shake the confidence of those who decide to follow this path. However, one should not forget that the so-called spiritual usually diverges from the most conventional patterns and is faithful to its own purpose. Regardless of what they say, it is a sign of maturity and evolution. Another challenge is to maintain the daily discipline, whether with meditation, yoga, or other energy-raising practices. Our routine is full of distractions. Therefore, persevering requires willpower and patience. It is essential to remember to go calmly and respect your own rhythm. This journey should not be imposed rigidly. Each person has their own evolution cycle. And starting this process of sublimation requires attention to one's own limitations. If at some point you feel overloaded or think you have taken a step back, do not judge yourself. The most important thing is to be sincere with yourself and your search for spiritual meaning. Finally, we realize that the journey of channeling sexual energy for inner growth is undoubtedly one of the most profound and transformative experiences that someone can experience. It is not about denying what is essential in existence, but about elevating this strength to greater goals, in tune with the divine purpose. Perhaps it is time to reflect on how you have directed your own vital energy. Is it channeling it for distractions or trying to contain it without understanding it? Waking up spiritually involves learning to deal with this inner current, perceiving its potential and channeling it to expand consciousness, achieve goals and strengthen the connection with the sacred. You may be wondering if you have enough preparation for this change, or if you will find a positive way to use this energy. The answer is yes, it is possible. Each step represents an advance, and the important thing is to start, experiencing without haste or pressure. Each person follows his own rhythm, his own trajectory, and makes unique discoveries. Do not cover yourself too much. What matters is the sincere intention. So reflect on your spiritual practices. Have you used your energy in something great, or is it getting lost in old habits? If you are enjoying it, great. Otherwise, perhaps it is time to look at possibilities in a different way and notice how to redirect sexual energy. It can drive your inner growth. Leave your comment with your reflections, because this conversation can be valuable for everyone who reads it. If you think this content makes sense, share it with those who can also benefit. We are united by a divine energy, and every step we take brings us even closer to our true essence. Finally, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss the next videos. We still have a lot to explore on this path of consciousness and spirituality,